to news from Zimbabwe that has imposed an immediate freeze on exports of all raw materials and lithium concentrate as well. The Ministry of Mines and Mining Development of Zimbabwe has announced this move while tightening state control over resources that are critical to global clean energy and defense industries. The ban covers all raw minerals already in transit and remains in place until further notice.
In a bold declaration of economic liberation that is sending tremors across global markets and awakening a new consciousness across the continent, Zimbabwe has taken a historic stand halting, with immediate effect, the export of all raw minerals and lithium concentrates. This decisive move, announced by Mines Minister Winston Chitando on February 25, 2026, is more than policy, it is a statement of sovereignty. For generations, Africa's wealth has been extracted in its rawest form, shipped abroad, and transformed into prosperity for others, while African nations remain trapped in cycles of dependency. But now, Zimbabwe is rejecting that legacy. It is drawing a line in the sand and declaring, the era of exporting poverty while importing wealth must end. This sweeping suspension targets all unprocessed resources: lithium, nickel, chrome, manganese, and more, even halting shipments already en route. It is a radical interruption of a system that has long enriched foreign industries at Africa's expense. What Zimbabwe is doing is not just economic reform, it is resistance. Authorities have exposed a system riddled with exploitation. Under-invoicing, smuggling networks, shadowy intermediaries, and massive revenue leakages that have drained the nation's lifeblood. This policy is a direct response, a reclaiming of control, a restructuring of power. It is about ensuring that Africa's resources no longer slip through its fingers unnoticed and unaccounted for. At the heart of this move is a powerful vision: value addition at home. No longer will African minerals leave as raw materials only to return as expensive finished goods. Zimbabwe is asserting its right to industrialize, to process, to manufacture, to rise. Though this direction had been signaled before, the acceleration of the policy into 2026 and its expansion to cover all raw minerals has shaken global players. Investors and foreign processors, long accustomed to easy access, now face a new reality. Africa is no longer a passive supplier. It is becoming a strategic force. And rightly so. Zimbabwe stands as one of the most resource-rich nations on Earth, with vast deposits stretching across the Great Dyke. From platinum and gold to diamonds and nickel, its wealth is undeniable. Most critically, it holds Africa's largest lithium reserves, a mineral now central to the global energy transition. Lithium powers the modern world, from electric vehicles to renewable energy systems. Yet for too long, Africa has exported this strategic resource at low value, only to buy back finished technologies at a premium. Zimbabwe is challenging this injustice head-on. Why should a continent so rich in resources remain poor in development? Why should communities living atop mineral wealth continue to suffer while foreign corporations accumulate profits? These are the questions driving the shift. For decades, multinational interests have focused on extraction, not transformation. Local economies have been sidelined and African potential suppressed. But this moment signals a turning point. Zimbabwe's decision is more than national policy. It is a continental call to action. A call for Africa to take ownership of its destiny, to protect its wealth, and to build industries that serve its people. This is not just about minerals. This is about freedom. This is about power. This is about Africa rising on its own terms. Without building its own refining capacity, Zimbabwe has remained tied to external processing centers, especially across Asia. This exposes a painful contradiction. How can a nation so rich in strategic minerals remain economically constrained while its wealth fuels industrial revolutions elsewhere? But Zimbabwe's decision is not happening in isolation. It is part of a powerful continental awakening, a rising wave of resource nationalism and economic self-determination sweeping across Africa. One by one, African nations are rejecting the outdated model of exporting raw materials while importing finished products at a premium. Look at Ghana, which has declared its intention to end raw mineral exports after 2030, while strengthening domestic processing and reclaiming control over its cocoa sector. In Namibia, the export of unprocessed lithium and rare earth minerals was banned as early as 2023. Tanzania has also tightened restrictions on unrefined mineral exports, while the Democratic Republic of the Congo is moving to retain more value from its cobalt industry. Even Nigeria has taken steps to halt raw ore exports in favor of local processing. From bauxite in Guinea to manganese in Gabon, a clear pattern is emerging. Africa is refusing to remain a supplier of cheap raw materials. The continent is now demanding its rightful place in the global value chain. Is this the long-awaited economic awakening Africans have envisioned for generations? If Zimbabwe executes this strategy effectively, the rewards could be transformative. Local beneficiation has the potential to create thousands of skilled jobs, energize entire industries, and significantly increase national revenue through taxes and royalties. Building domestic refining capacity will not only accelerate industrialization, but also reduce dependence on imported finished goods. By compelling mining corporations to invest directly in local processing infrastructure, projects already worth hundreds of millions of dollars, Zimbabwe can capture a much larger share of the lithium battery value chain. Stronger oversight and tighter export controls could also dismantle corruption networks and ensure that the country's wealth benefits ordinary citizens, not just foreign interests. Beyond economics, this move positions Zimbabwe as a strategic force in the global energy transition. No longer just a supplier of raw materials, it is stepping forward as a future industrial hub, one that shapes, rather than serves, global demand. But the question remains, will global investors adapt to this new reality, or retreat to regions where exploitation remains easier? What is undeniable, however, is that Zimbabwe's decision goes far beyond mining policy. It is a declaration of sovereignty, dignity, and a reimagined future for African development. For too long, Africa's resources have built distant economies while local communities remained marginalized, an injustice that can no longer be ignored. Now, the tide is turning. By insisting on value addition within its borders, Zimbabwe is challenging decades of economic imbalance and redefining how Africa engages with the world. If successful, this could ignite a domino effect, encouraging other nations to renegotiate extractive deals, rebuild their industries, and ensure that African wealth stays in African hands. The world is already reacting. The real question now is, will Africa stand united behind this new vision? Is this the moment the continent stops exporting its potential and starts exporting its prosperity? Your voice matters. What do you think about Zimbabwe's bold decision to suspend raw mineral exports? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in a stronger, self-reliant Africa, hit that subscribe button and turn on notification bell for more informative videos like this one. Thanks for watching.